is a presentation of Appalachian University, forging a premier comprehensive.
Welcome to Appalachian Perspective. Our host, Frank Borkowski. Today I'm joined by my friend Tozan, a former teacher, pianist, and AIDS nurse who chose to pursue priesthood. To me, he explains lifelong learning, what it means to continually grow intellectually and spiritually. I think you'll find him an interesting fellow, too. Welcome, Tozan.
I'm so grateful to be here, Dr. Borkowski. Thank you. That's a very flattering introduction. Very much.
Pleased to have you here.
Thank you so much.
Tell us the significance of the what you have on today.
This is called a raksu, a robe that we wear on the street when we go out to be, or even when we're working, we wear this small robe. Normally, a full-length robe, called an okesa. And this is a smaller version, and we must make this. And after we make it, the teacher write kind of Buddhist incantation or. So this is my teacher, Nishiyama, from Sendai, Japan.
Now, Buddhism is one of the world's largest religions.
Mm-hmm. Well, I should say, personally, I think of Buddhism and not so much a religion. The Buddhist teachings from the Buddha are based in understanding that we create our own suffering. And he taught the Four Noble Truths, which are, first of all, life is suffering. And there's a way out of that suffering, and that way is eightfold paths, and that is a way of acting correctly. And these are pretty simple things. They don't require a God. Really prayer in any way. They require practice, personal commitment to just being a better person. And it's become a religion because Buddhism was an eclectic group to different countries like Tibet, for instance, and took on all of the folk religions and brought practice of Buddhism. They don't really have that much to do with Buddhism, but they are very important. Ancient times of a community, sangha, we call it together. And these things, they really help hold a group of people in society now. Mm-hmm. And that's why the Chinese are so angry, because these things are, really destroying the mind of the people. Well, it may. People happy to celebrate together the things that they know and their grandparents knew. And Christian in the Episcopal Church, I still like to go to the services and celebrate the major holidays. Thing for me. It's very comforting and very inspiring for me. So I don't feel that as a matter of fact, I know a lot more and appreciate the teachings of Christ much more after becoming. Interesting. It is.
Yeah. I think there is a false conception of one, and you're, I'm sure aware, if you talk to people about it, they normally think that for Christ.
No, no,
You know,
not at all.
I think there's just, without understanding that it's a way of living.
It truly is.
For the past 5 years, you have run and initiated the Soto Zen Temple.
Yes, I have.
outside of. What led you to Zen Buddhism?
I have always been. My first education was in a private Catholic school, and those people there, the educated, serious, committed people in their own way, and I feeling in the convent where I went to school gave me a sense of my life. I don't know many people in my group that I grew up with. I don't think. And from that time on, it seemed to me that I just needed to search for me. What is really meaningful in this life? How can I? And this is where Buddhism really came. The major teaching of Buddhism is we have one criteria for choosing an action beings. If it is, then you don't really have any problem. There are no laws. It's just that you really must understand and you must believe that it's going to benefit all beings if you're going to do this thing. So even before I knew about Buddhism, when I was in Julliard, my roommate was a student of Suzuki, who was at Columbia at that time. And I got very interested in Zen in an ephemeral. I had to practice piano so much, so. But in the corner of my mind, it lodged there. Teaching at Eastern Michigan University, I was married and divorced, and I got a little bored with music. Enjoy the ego fulfillment that I was supposed to get out of playing the piano, and so one of my best friends in my whole life was my godmother, Mrs. Edwin Hughes, and her husband was one of my. And she had fallen and broken her leg, and she was sick, and she was an alcoholic, and she was. And I just quit my job, and I went back there, and I took care of her. And it was a whole service in a way, but it was a freedom, too, that I experienced that I never knew before. Doing that, after she died, she left me this wonderful house in Connecticut, and so that was a nest actually before. And it was such a great, gratifying experience for me, I decided. And so in Connecticut, I went to a little community college, and I thought, well, these wonderful degrees from Julliard, but I never worked so hard in all my life. This little community, wonderful, terrific people. And I studied nursing, and I worked on the weekends at Norway, sort of an assistant nurse. And it was a great. And I came back to North Carolina at that point and started to work for Duke. And the more to understanding that people are dying and people are needing some kind of and I didn't see anybody else giving them this comfort either. And I started to think, give me comfort when it's my time, you know. And I really got interested in studying Zen. Pittsburgh, he was teaching Rinzai Zen, and then I started studying Soto. And after he died, I flew back and forth to San Francisco and studied with Reb Anderson, who did human values and just good common sense. And I just got really and moved there to study, to be a priest. At the same time, I was. Yes, I moved.
Sold your Connecticut house.
Oh, I'd already sold the Connecticut house. I was living in Chapel Hill.
Oh, okay.
Sold that house and moved to San Francisco to become a priest. And a friend in he was a communications professor from Seidoan University at Duke. And he had a daughter who studied piano, and she wanted to study with me. So we got to be good friends. in Sendai. Well, I went to visit in Sendai, and of course another door opened. He introduced me to my teacher, who, after a while, ordained me. So it was a very just opened, you know, and I just fortunately had the sense to go through them.
Mm-hmm.
Not.
Yes. But the move from New at Eastern Michigan and then into nursing. Background, develop any types of, how shall I say, sensitivities?
I think so. And not only that, the compassion that I learned in nursing helps my music so much. It's far better than it was in the early days.
Yes.
Because I was so arrogant as a young guy. Stuff, it just didn't. But after a while, you get honed down and sound.
Yes.
And this little piano that you have here is a very nice sound, very pretty.
Well, that's fascinating. Later in life, do you look back at those younger years? How differently you responded to life situations then?
I'm so embarrassed that I truly am.
So obviously that's retrospective. Well, I think that probably would be the case with all of us to some degree. But in terms of what differences were there. Music portion, if we may, just for a short time here, but you began your career in music. Did you perform a great deal? Did you do concert performance?
From my childhood on, my sister is a violinist, and she was it's by one of the nuns in the convent where we went to school. The nun who trained me as a I never really had a good piano teacher until I was 14, and that's pretty late. And she was sick. I was very raw. They saw something in me and they let me in, thankfully. But I had a tremendous amount to catch up. I really did. I didn't feel I was ready to play. I was playing in little clubs all around New York and places, and at school, of course. And after graduation from Julliard, when I got my master's after that, in Connecticut, and opened a little studio, I bought a barn there in New Canaan. In this barn, so it was quite famous, 200 years old. And I jacked that barn up in the studio there to teach piano students. You know, all these rich executives lived in New Canaan, and I had a foot. And I taught well, I enjoyed it, and for 3 years I did that. And I did play. On having parties and, you know, enjoying my freedom as a landowner for the first time, so. Michigan. When I got to Michigan, I had to play a lot.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Because I had to do NET programs at...
Now, I understand you entered Julliard without an audition?
Oh, no. Without an audition.
You had to audition for the entrance.
But I had no idea that you couldn't go. And they said, well, you know, you have to come and play for us. I said, okay. So I walked in two Steinways. I'd never seen a 9-foot Steinway before. And sat out at one and started playing. I was about to cry. It was so gorgeous. The sound was so beautiful. It just went on from there. It was an eye-opener. That whole experience in New York was wonderful for me.
To record a couple of pieces earlier in Appalachian Hayes School of Music. Videotape for our audience.
Okay. Yeah, I play where people really enjoy it. I played in the States and had a good time playing for those people.
That's wonderful.
Well, it's wonderful for me.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned, of course, how you got the taking care of your godmother. Mm-hmm. But that transition conceptually to move from music, from a career in music. Now, what drove you to that?
Well, first, and she had been the teacher of my hometown piano teacher. Mm-hmm. And I knew of her, and I adored her. And she was rich and famous, positioned in New York. She had a house right next to Marietta Tree on 79th Street and Park Avenue. My husband taught some wonderful pianists. He had been at the Institute of New York, Julliard. And so I began to study with the two of them, and go back to England in the summer, I would study with them. And she and I just had this friendship. And I had known her all, and she had known me because she chose music for me to study before I ever met her. So when I went to take care of her, of course, the time that we would spend day after day after day was, and she had a gorgeous bee sitting right there, right outside her bedroom. And
oh, wonderful.
And she would just say, those scales are not even, Yeah. So I never lost music. Even when I was in Sendai in Japan, the music I had to play.
Yes.
Everywhere.
Yes.
And they use me like oh, now see the Gaijin monkey, he plays the piano, he beats the tom-tom. It was funny. But it made me practice.
Surely. And of course, with the training that you've had and the facility you've had, that's something that you can and actually it fits in well with the Buddhist teaching life that you want to attain for yourself.
I think so, and my whole life I can to use it as a refining fire in a way. And everything I've done it down to get rid of the rough edges. And I like to say I'm a hermit, because I have exquisite taste and I need a lot of nice things around and beautiful good wine, and I really enjoy all those things. One of my friends just wrote a thing in a Buddhist magazine to have desire, but he says, I love desire. I just love good wine and good sex. He said, what is this no desire? And I think in Buddhism sometimes there's nothing wrong with doing anything.
Yes.
So long as you're genuine about it, sincere.
Right. Well, Buddhism, of course, is so closely related to meditation. And I think there's a common perception that some sort of hermit type of life.
Yes.
But indeed, what you're saying is, of course, can be attained, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you give up the finer things of life.
Matter of fact, it's very easy to be a hermit and to be a perfect Buddhist. It's not to be a perfect Buddhist. So that's the real test of how well you're doing when you're a Buddhist. The people, when they don't like you or they disagree with you, or, what do you do then? We have a lot to learn.
Surely. Now, Tozan, do you meditate every day?
Yes, I do. There are more ways to meditate than just sitting on a cushion and being quiet. When you practice piano, what you're doing, when you're a painter, or any activity that requires so much, that is real meditation. It is total involvement of the body and mind. We have to keep this meditation word in flow so that it is more.
Now, one aspect of Buddhism is nonviolence. View the recent United States war on Iraq and the ongoing war against terrorism.
Well, I feel really sad that someone we fear. And when we fear terrorism, or we fear to have security systems in the house, and we have to keep guns by the bed, and it's a terrible. It may behoove us to just take the chance. So destructive to others for fear that they're going to hurt us.
Yes.
It's a sad time.
Is it possible for people of other religions, and I guess Buddhism?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And is it your embrace Buddhism, those of different faiths, but embrace it as a way of life? Peace?
Yes, I do think so, because what I think happens is when you embrace Buddhist practice, violence, and understanding what causes all the suffering in the world, then whatever is enhanced by that practice. I don't think there's any difference in the religions of the world. Father Thomas Bede talked about all of the religions, and he said, Islam, and all these different kinds of religions, they all come down and meet in the center. We all need God in our lives. We are all searching for whatever God is. I mean, we may have different names, but we have to have that. That's a human condition, I think.
Tozan Hardison, thank you so very much for being a guest today. This has been Most enlightening.
Thank you
and
so
I'm
much.
sure our viewers have learned a great deal about the substance of it, and indeed about how they might indeed understand it better. You're very
It's
much.
my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Shivara